Hello and greetings to all of the Earthlings and sentient beings out there. This is my review of the very strange-looking Aston Apex dynamic mic. This thing costs about $210. Full disclosure, I bought this with my own money. If you want to check it out, I'll throw some links in the description down below. All of my recording settings will be listed in the doobly-doo as well as the description. And now let's talk about what comes in the box. Oh my gosh, you get the microphone! Also a microphone clip, a 5/8 to 3/8 inch microphone stand adapter, a little bit of documentation, and a sticker. Then, as far as the build quality, I have zero complaints about this thing. It has an all-metal body. The grill of this thing is also very sturdy metal, and it has zero give to it. There is a recessed switch on the side to switch between the two voicings. On the bottom, you have the XLR port. If you care, this is what the capsule looks like. I'll just rotate around it and show you the front. Just completion. And if you care, it's made in China. I am not going to read all of the specifications to you, but I will have them up on screen with the graphs and everything, and also list them in the description in case you want to pause and take a closer look at anything. Now I'm spinning around the Apex to 90 degrees to show you how that sounds. Continuing around to the rear of the mic, this is 180. Continuing around to the second 90-degree angle, and then rotating and ending at the front of the mic. Now let us hear how this thing handles plosive rejection. Please provide pizza pronto. Please provide pizza pronto. Please provide pizza pronto. And now with my lips on the grill. Please provide pizza pronto. Please prepare pizza pronto. Please provide prepared pizza pronto, pals. Now I am right on top of the microphone, and here's how it's sounding in voice 1. Now about 3 inches off of the mic, and here's how it sounds. About 1 foot away from the Aston Apex, about 2 feet away from the Apex, and about 4 feet away from the Aston Apex. Now typing on Gateron blue switches to see how much of that it can reject. And for the gamers, here are the sad W and spacebar keys. Now here is how the Aston Apex sounds about 3 inches from my mouth in a relatively well-treated room. And now here is how the Aston Apex sounds about 3 inches away from my mouth in a completely untreated room. Next, I want to see how effective the microphone and mount are at rejecting shock, so I'll start by tapping on my desk to see if it can reject that. And then tapping on the boom arm. I am also very annoying and I want to be thorough, so I'm going to tap on the body of this microphone to see if there are any kind of resonant frequencies. This is also a handheld mic, so let's see how much handling noise it can reject. Even though I don't recommend doing this, I want to demo what it sounds like if you cup the grill, so here's how it sounds with the grill unimpeded. If I wrap my hand around the grill, here is how it sounds. This is the sound of the microphone with the grill unimpeded, and then wrapping my hand around the grill again. There you go. Now, something interesting about this mic is that it has 2 different voicings, meaning it essentially has 2 different EQ curves. What you've been listening to me on this entire time has been voicing 1. This is voicing 1. And now I've switched over to voicing 2, which should sound quite a bit brighter and have a much more upper mid focus and much more forward sound. This is voicing 2 at the same distance, same gain setting. And here's another sample on voicing 1 about 3 inches off of the microphone. And here is another sample on voicing 2 about 3 inches off of the microphone. This is voicing 2 on the Aston Apex. Now I am right on top of the microphone on voicing 1. This is voicing 1. And now jumping over to voicing 2 with my lips on the grill. This is voicing 2, a lot brighter. This is voicing 2. And here's another sample on voicing 1 with my lips touching the grill of the mic. And yet another sample on voicing 2 with my lips on the grill. This sounds a lot better and a lot less muddy. This is definitely not my second time recording this, but now let's compare the Aston Apex against a dozen other microphones. This is the Aston Apex 3 inches off, 48 volts on, gain set at 40 decibels on voicing 2. Let's hear the first mic. First up, I'm on the Shure SM58, one of the most popular microphones of all time. 3 inches off, gain set at 50 decibels, no phantom power is on. This microphone costs about $100. There you go, 58 versus Apex. Back on the Apex to function as a palate cleanser, here's how it sounds. Let's move on. Next, I'm on the Sennheiser E835, 3 inches off, gain still set at 50 decibels. This microphone also costs about $100 and gives you a much brighter sound. That is the E835 against the Aston Apex. This is the Aston Apex again. Nothing has changed. We are using the Focsurite 18i 24th Gen. Let's move on. Next, I'm on the SE Electronics SEV7, 3 inches off, gain set at 50 decibels. This is another handheld dynamic. It costs about $100. And here is how the SEV7 sounds. Let's go back and do a whole bunch more. Hey, I'm back on the Apex again. Here's how it's sounding. 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. What's the next one? Now I am on the Shure Beta 58A, 3 inches off, gain still set at 50 decibels. Make sure to check the lower third to see how much I boost each of these in post. This microphone costs about $150, and that is how it sounds compared to the Aston Apex. Alright, here we are on the Apex again to clear out your ear canals and let you hear it. Let's hear whatever the next one is. Now I am on the Audix OM3, say it with me, 3 inches off, gain still set at 50 decibels. This microphone costs between $100 and $170, a lot of variation there, but here is how the Audix sounds against the Aston. AA, AVA, Angels and Airwaves? This ought to be the midpoint palate cleanser on the Aston Apex, that's how it sounds. Let's hear the next mic. Now I am on the Mojave MAD, another handheld dynamic, 3 inches off, gain still set at 50 decibels. I am slowly losing my mind. This microphone costs about $180, and that is the Mojave against the Aston Apex. Now we are over the hump on the Aston Apex. This is how it sounds. Let it function as an auditory Q-tip. Next one. Next, I am on the Sennheiser E935, another handheld dynamic, 3 inches off, gain still set at 50 decibels. Make sure to check the lower third. This microphone costs about $200, and that is Sennheiser's more premium offering against the Aston Apex. Hello, I am back on the Aston Apex. Nothing has changed. You shouldn't be surprised. Let's hear the next microphone. Now I am on the Beyerdynamic TGV70D, 3 inches off, gain still set at 50 decibels. How many times can I say the exact same thing? A couple more, I am sure. This microphone also costs about $200, and it is very hot for a dynamic. I am living dangerously here. My level is very high. That is the TGV70D. Let's move on. I don't know how many of these I have done. I don't know where I am, who I am, what year it is, but this is the Aston Apex. Let's go to another microphone. Now we are on the condenser side. I am on the Audio Technica AT2020, 3 inches off, gain still set at 40 decibels. This microphone costs about $120 or $130. That's a condenser mic against the Aston Apex. All right, we have a handful more. This is the Aston Apex. If you want to hear the comparison to Voicing 1, I'll throw that on Podcastage too. Let's hear another mic. Now I am on the Lewitt MTP350CM, 3 inches off, gain still at 40 decibels and 48 volts on, another handheld condenser. This mic costs about $200, and here's how it sounds compared to the Aston Apex. This should be the penultimate palette cleanser on the Apex, voicing 2. Let's go to the second to last mic. Next up, I am on the Earthworks SR117, 3 inches off, gain still at 40 decibels, 48 volts still on, because this is another handheld condenser, a very neutral handheld condenser. This costs about $200, and that's enough talking. Let's move on. And now I am on the Apex. This is your final palette cleanser. Let's jump to the last microphone, right? Now I am on the Neumann U87 Ai, 3 inches off, gain dropped to 29 decibels, cardioid pattern, no pad, no filters. This microphone costs $3,700, so a direct and fair comparison against a handheld dynamic. That is enough of the comparisons. Let's go ahead. I crack myself up still with that bit. Let's go ahead and jump to the music test. Should know you can never run from the things you do that are haunting you. If you eat some popcorn, then you eat some pie, then you drink that soda. We all know that's why I'll die. I have no additional context or information to add, but yep, okay, let's just move on. Hi there, and welcome to the conclusion of this video. This microphone, the Aston Apex, has a crazy looking design, a useful set of features, and a unique sound profile. Let's go with that. Fine, I will stop eating the microphone because I already ate my dinner. Sorry, Mom. First up, as far as pros, that's ridiculous. This microphone has active electronics, and that makes this dynamic microphone incredibly loud. I only need about 40 to 45 decibels of gain. It is one of the loudest output handheld dynamics that I have used before. Also, irrespective of whether I like them or not, it is nice to have two different voicings on a microphone to give you a couple of different tonal options to fit whatever use case you have. I thought it did a pretty darn good job at background noise rejection. It did a more than reasonable job with the resonance test because it did not ring like a bell, and I find the build quality of this thing to be more than sufficient. It feels quite robust. But then we get to the cons of this thing, and number one for me is the plosive rejection. Please provide pizza pronto. It is pretty gosh darn brutal, and as far as handling noise rejection, I think it did a pretty bad job at that compared to a lot of the competition. Now that my air conditioning is turned on, what are my overall thoughts and opinions of the Aston Apex? It depends on what voicing you're using. On voicing 1, you are getting a V-shaped and somewhat muddy sound. On voicing 2, it is less muddy sounding, but it is very upper mid 3 kilohertz focused. In the low end, I find it to be very robust in the bass and low mids. Then in the mids, it depends. If you're in voicing 1, you get that recessed midsection giving you that V shape. If you're in voicing 2, you are getting that very big push in the upper mids with the primary focus being around 3 kilohertz. And then once you get to the treble and air frequencies, it doesn't have too much going on there. It rolls a lot of that off and doesn't give you this hyper detailed sound. It is much more upper mid focused. On the electric guitar, it's fine if you like mid frequencies because you are getting a lot of that. 3 kilohertz has a big bump, and that's going to be flattering for some. It's going to be off-putting for others. If that's what you're looking for, that's what it's offering. On the acoustic guitar, like most dynamics, it doesn't have the liveliest of sounds. This is less lively than some other dynamics, and then it gives you this very, very mid-focused sound. For singing vocals, it doesn't give you the most detailed or lively or exciting sound profile, but it does give you this very pushed and forward sound. And for spoken word, I am just not a huge fan of it. In voicing 1, I find it to be too V-shaped and muddy sounding. On voicing 2, I don't think you need a 5, 6, 10 dB bump around 3 kilohertz. I just don't think it's flattering for that application. And to wrap up this review, would I recommend the Aston Apex? I just do not love how this thing sounds on either voicing. I find it to be either too scooped and too muddy, or it is too pushed and focused around 3 kilohertz. Both of those are just unflattering to me. But I am sure there is somebody out there hearing this thinking, oh my God, that's the exact sound that I've been looking for all these years. If that's you, more power to you. And other than the sound of this thing, which I admittedly do not love, it does have some nice features like those active electronics, which makes it a very loud output handheld dynamic. It does a good job at background noise rejection. It has multiple voicings to fit your preference or your use case. And I found the build quality to be very robust. But if you're prone to plosives, this may not be the best fit because I found it to be pretty subpar at rejecting those. Please provide pizza pronto. That's a lot of air. Also, if you are looking for a handheld microphone to handhold the entire time, it did a pretty bad job at rejecting that noise as well, so I think there may be better fits out there at a similar or lower price.